Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another show of Just My Thoughts. I'm your host, Eric Daniel Coughlin. Today we're going to be talking about, or I should say tonight. I'm sorry it's late. I'm sorry that it's so dark and fuzzy in the background. But it is what it is. It's the night of the 4th. It's Independence Day. Um, and so I had to take a step away from outside and take a step inside to knock out this podcast as best as I can. But today we're going to focus on the free agency of the NBA. I already told you guys that I was going to cover that, and I told you that once it kicks off and everything's afloat, that I would break down every team individually. And we all know that there's 32 teams in NBA, so we're not going to get all into 32 teams tonight, but this is what we are going to do. So I'm going to talk about a couple of teams right off the bat that one's made a lot of noise to completely re-landscape their team, and then of course the other being my team who hasn't made a lot of noise at all. So let's get down to that. Let's start off with the NBA free agency of the Chicago Bulls. So this is what we did. We saved Nikola Vucevic just like I said that we would. We got him for 3 years, 60 million. Our all-around brilliant move. This saved money. This gave us salary cap to approach a couple other areas. And all in all, it saved, in my opinion, in the top five best centers in the NBA. So it was an absolute must do situation, and we did just that. So thank God that Boots is still around. Like I said, 3 years, 60 million. He's not going nowhere. He'll probably more than likely retire a Bull. He may give us an extra year down the road. We'll see about that. All depending on the shape of the team and how we're playing. It is unlikely, but it is possible that he sticks around longer than the 3 years. We'll have to see how that goes and down that road. So this is what we have done outside of that. We also saved Kobe White, which was a mind-blowing situation for me. Everything that I had done, all my studies had proved that we were going to either sign and trade or outright trade before free agency ever started. And neither of those situations happened. We actually re-signed him to 11 years, 11 million a year, 3 year, 33 million. So within Vooch's 60 million and within Kobe's 33 million, we had spent 93 million staying the same. And I don't know how I feel about that so far because I was all for losing Kobe White. And this is another thing that we have done as well. So we picked up Javon Carter, who is point guard, actually backup point guard for the Milwaukee Bucks last year, Javon Carter. And then we got him for a 2 year, actually maybe a 3 year, $20 million deal. So that put us at 103 mil spent. And then we picked up Torrey Craig. I don't know. I know we got him for 2 years, but I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a 2 year, 8 million, or if it's like a 2 year, you know, 14, 16 million. I don't know what his cap is. So I don't know what all we got, as far as length of contract, it's 2 years. But as far as how much money we put in the bank toward that player, I have no idea. Now, here's the thing. I'm not saying that either one of those players are bad, Javon Carter and or Torrey Craig. I'm saying that I expected a lot bigger name. I also expected a power forward to be signed, and we didn't go that way. In fact, we went with wings and guards, which is crazy because we've had a shit ton of wings and guards on the team already, so it confused me. But all in all, if you look at their rap sheets, Javon Carter can hold his own, and Torrey Craig can hold his own. Both of these guys have been in the league a minimum 6 years, maybe a little longer. Maybe you've been on a couple of different teams. Story is that Torrey Craig's a 3-and-D player, so he's going to be a lot like DeMar DeRozan, probably a lot more skilled than Io DeSumo and Derrick Jones Jr. combined. So, so that sounds promising. Sounds promising. The Suns made a little run toward the end of the year when they picked up KD, so a lot of that could have been KD. Not necessarily the players that are on that team besides KD. I know Devin Booker holds his own. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that, they let go Chris Paul. Now they let go Torrey Craig. They've been letting players go out of Phoenix. They did pick up Bradley Beal. We talked about that on the last episode. But needless to say, none of that. This is not about the Phoenix Suns. I'm just saying that's where Torrey Craig come from, is the Phoenix Suns. So thus far, the way our free agency has worked so far, we got to save Derrick Jones Jr., we got to save Andre Drummond, we saved Kobe White, we saved Nikola Vucevic, we added Javon Carter, and we added Torrey Craig. So that tells me that Io DeSumo is probably working his way out of the building. along with Javonte Green. If you guys don't know, Patrick Beverly is already off the team. He signed a 1-year league minimum deal to work for Philadelphia 76ers. I don't know what his thought process was, but I'm just glad he's gone. I didn't need him. I didn't want him last year, but I got stuck with him. So now I don't have him at all. So I'm grateful for that. But the big question is, we're already somewhere about 120 million spent. I'm just guessing now because, like I said, I don't know the Torrey Craig deal full throttle. So I'm thinking we're about 120. And if you guys could remember, I told you we were floating around the 140, 150 mark, and we're trying to find a way to get out of the Lonzo Ball situation, trying to get like 10 million back on that. So we might be floating around 30 million more. We might have about 30 mil. We might have roughly 40 mil if the league accepts letting go of Lonzo and give us, player injury exceptions, all that, how that works out. So roughly that means we're really only looking at signing one more guy, maybe two more guys if we can find two rotation players. Because ideally, I don't think that Javon Carter is going to come in and start. I think signing Javon Carter means that we lose Ayo Dosunmu, which means Javon Carter becomes the bench point guard, which means Kobe White becomes the starter again next year. Now the big question is Torrey Craig better than Patrick Williams? Size-wise, absolutely not. Patrick is bigger, he's thicker, he's taller. All around, he's the ideal power forward. We were hoping that he is going to be our franchise power forward whenever we drafted him, and then got hurt early, and then battled back and got through his injuries, played all 82 games last year. So, the market's big for Patrick Williams next year. Sky's the limit for him. He can come in, work his ass off all summer long, come in next year as the starting power forward as he was last year. If you guys do your homework, you know that he started every game until the All-Star break, and then after that, he started benching. He's chewing up the wood and coming in as the sixth man, which I'm okay with him being our sixth man, but I'm not okay with the I don't know factor of Torrey Craig. So I look at us primarily being the same team next year that we were last year. In sights of this, I look at Kobe White being starting point guard. I look at Zach LaVine being the shooting guard. DeMar DeRozan being the small forward. Maybe Patrick Williams, power forward, Vooch as the center. And then on the bench, you would look at Javon Carter being, did I say that right? Javon Carter being the point guard on the bench, then Alex Caruso being the shooting guard on the bench, and then Torrey Craig being the small forward on the bench, and then probably Derrick Jones Jr. will maintain the power forward position. Maybe he gains a little weight this year during the offseason, puts on somewhere close to just, about 10 pounds. That's all he's got to do is just get thick for us, a little bit. Just put on a little weight, maintain the power forward position on the bench. And then, of course, big bad boy Andre Drummond. He sticks around for us, and he's the bench center. So that's our 10 guys we're looking to play next year. And then, so Dallin Terry's still on the team on a rookie contract, so probably injured reserve player at the least. And as of right now, that's the only guys that I know that are going to be around. I know 11 players for sure going to be on the team next year. Lonzo Ball would make 12, but I'm not trying to count him. As a matter of fact, I'm already giving you guys the exclusive. We're trying to get rid of him, trying to get him off the team, even without him being a free agent. It's like as a disabled player contract. It pretty much eliminates whatever money that we owe him. He'll get, half of that percentage, and then if he's healthy enough to come back, he can come back as a free agent year after next. He won't be a Bull. This is the extent of it. We save the money, but we lose his contract, which means even when he becomes able to play, he won't be coming and playing for us unless we're willing to rebargain with him. That's just how that works. And I hope that don't happen. Here's the thing. Not that I'm against Lonzo Ball, but I'm against this. I'm against kicking somebody off my team 2 years later, putting them right back on the team. I am against that. Not knowing what his knees are going to do, not knowing if he's ever going to hold up. I would just say that that's a big waste of time. So, thus far, that has us all caught up with the Chicago Bulls free agency. Now, this is the team that I want to talk about. That I told you guys in the very first episode, or the last episode, sorry, not the very first, but the last episode. I said that there was going to be teams that are going to completely re-landscape and completely rechange who exactly they are. A team that has done that is the Houston Rockets. So the Houston Rockets give up 130 million for 3 years. Fred Van Vliet is now the starting point guard for the Houston Rockets. Starting shooting guard for the Houston Rockets. They 4-year, $80 million contract went to Dylan Brooks, who I think is hilarious. I can't believe that he even makes that much money, period. I can't believe that Houston wants to give him a franchise contract. I mean, you got to think about it. That's the way it's to be looked at. 4 years, 5 years, 5 years are max deal contracts. So to get a 4-year deal, that's still saying that you're getting a franchise deal. I just find that ridiculous because I don't see him as a legitimate threat in the NBA. And even if he was able to stay in the NBA, obviously he is staying in the NBA, obviously. But I would see him total max worth, I don't know, 33 to 42 million. I see him at a middle of the run. I would say there's 100 better basketball players in the league than him. I don't see him being an $80 million player. But I'm not Houston, and I'm not a Houston fan, so that's their problem. And then they drafted a couple of guys, actually like a few of them, through trades and through the draft. They got several draft picks. One of them, excuse me, Amon Thompson. If I'm correct, I think Amon Thompson had went to the Houston Rockets, and they're probably looking to start him. So he's probably going to be their starting small forward next year going forward. And then they've picked up a slew of other players. They've picked up about 5 guys already. That whole roster is between free agents and rookies. So Houston, you have a problem, and the problem is you thought you built a roster with full of talent. The biggest problem is none of these guys have ever played together. None of these guys have been in your organization. You have brought a handful of bandits, and you're linking them together to create a team, and you play in the West. So Houston, you have a problem. You think you're rebuilding, but I think you're not. I think you're slowly falling apart. Fred Van Vliet, he's all right. I mean, he can shoot the three ball, he can dribble, plays a little bit of defense, but he's never been like, oh my God, I've got to have Fred Van Vliet as my starting point guard. In my opinion, I've never seen that out of him. Apparently, somebody has in the league because he's been in Toronto for what 9 years, and now he just signed a 3-year deal with Houston. So other people think differently than I do. But if I were to give the keys to my franchise, it wouldn't be to a guy like Fred VanVleet. How you doing? So Houston Rockets, completely brand new team, not even a team to worry about. If they scratch the surface and get lucky enough to be in the play-in, I would say that that's a complete success for their rebuild. But I'm gonna say it's a long shot in the dark. The West is scary good. The West is going to continue to be scary good, and Houston, even though you want to rebuild, I'm okay with rebuilding programs. I'm okay with that. But I think that you went the wrong way. 4-year program. Dylan Brooks is not the answer for anybody. You just gave him $80 million. You got to think about that. I don't, because I'm not a fan. That's fruity. But so anyway, the Houston Rockets completely re-landscape. Here's a here's another team that's trying to reshape without re-landscaping. They've already made a couple of big moves that are eye-opening moves to me, but it's also like dumbfounded by them. But I mean, it is what it is. I'm talking about the Miami Heat. So if you don't know this, you know it now. The Miami Heat had given away Gabe Vincent to the Lakers. The Lakers signed Gabe Vincent 3 years, 33 million, 11 million a year. How you doing? Good job, Gabe Vincent. You deserve it. And then they also had turned around and got rid of Max Strus. This is huge. Max Strus signed a 4-year, $64 million contract to go play for a team that's already pretty good, the Cleveland Cavaliers. So now that they got a dominant three-point shooter, they still have, Mitchell out there. What is Mitchell's name for some reason? I keep on going blank on that. I want to keep on calling him. I keep on want to call him Devin Mitchell, but I don't think that's his name. I don't think it's Devin Mitchell. It's something Mitchell, but I don't think it's Devin Mitchell. And if it is Devin Mitchell, then good for me. But I seriously don't think that that's his name. But anyway, so they got Strus, they got Mitchell, they're keeping Jared Jack, and they're also working on ways to keep Evan Mobley as well. So they're trying not to change. All they're doing is adding. They're adding a three-point shooter who can knock the fucking lights out of the gym. Max Strus is the reason why the Chicago Bulls missed the playoffs, not because of Jimmy Butler, not because of Bam Adebayo, because of Max Strus. So good job by Cleveland, and we got to watch our asses all year next year for Cleveland. I'll tell you another team that did a pretty interesting move. So I told you I was going to talk about the teams that completely re-landscape, but I'm just going to kind of flow through the free agency. So I'm going to backtrack on what I said, and I'm going to apologize because this is all going to get really wild, but that's because the NBA is getting really wild. So this is what the Milwaukee Bucks have decided to do. So the Milwaukee Bucks picked up Robin Lopez. You're like, why are you talking about him? Well, I'll tell you why I'm talking about him, because about 4 or 5 years ago, he was by far the best player on my team. He's always been more than average player in the league. He's been in the league for 12 years. And oh, by the way, in case you don't know, he is Brooke Lopez's twin. Yeah, that's right. Those guys are twin brothers. So now that they got the twin magic coming, when Brooke comes off, Robin goes on. It's like they're not going to miss a step. Robin is a legitimate competitor, and I think he helps the Milwaukee Bucks big time. They also picked up Malik Beasley from LA Lakers, who could shoot the three ball, who could defend the wing. I'm talking about you put anybody out there, and Malik goes out there to guard them. They're locked up. He's just a tremendous wing defender. So they've got two really great defensive additions. Good job by them. And I hadn't seen them lose anybody that was like, oh my God, I can't believe they lost them. So think about that. Think about how scary they were last year. Think about now they added defense. Uh, they might be pretty freaking good next year. But I said might because we don't know. The Knicks, the New York Knicks. I'm so sorry, guys. I've got this light beaming in my face, so it's giving me a little bit of a problem. And I don't even have a cigarette. Are you serious? Bros. Bros. I ain't got no cigarettes. That's a little bit of a problem, but it's gonna be alright. I'll be able to make it without a cigarette, I hope. So this is what we're gonna do. The New York Knicks. So the New York Knicks have picked up the boy from Golden State, like DaVincio. I don't know how to say his name. DaVincio is how I'm gonna just try to attempt to pronounce it. But he's the point guard, played before the Jordan Poole experiment, which blew up in their face. But they got Steph Curry, and they have no reason to keep him. So he goes to the New York Knicks for a 4-year deal, 4 years, 54 million. So obviously he's pretty good if he's making 54 million in 4 years. And it doesn't make sense in the long run. They pick up a point guard. You're like, why the fuck would they do that? Well, think about it. First of all, they let go of Derrick Rose, who they didn't even use to begin with. Second of all, they got Jalen Brunson, who's primarily he's a point guard, but he could be a shooting guard. So if this guy can facilitate and play the role of point guard better than Jalen Brunson and challenge Jalen Brunson to play a shooting guard position, they might be onto something. And they kept Josh Hart. They've made a lot of changes. They got a new center in town, and I'm not talking about to replace uh, Mitchell Robinson. They're not looking to replace Mitchell Robinson. They're looking to back him up, give him some help. So I believe that they got that landscaped, and I think they took care of that. So they've got three new guys, three new faces, and I think that they're going to do fairly okay in the East. I think the Knicks, they made the playoffs last year. I think they're going to probably have a legitimate shot to make the playoffs next year. And I think that they're going to be a team that people might want to pay attention to, because when you're already good and then you bring in good players, that means you don't get, worse. It means you get better. So if you're good, you get better. You get good players. Your good turns into potentially great. You see what I'm saying? So the Knicks might be someone you have to fear next year. I said might. There's still a lot of things that we don't know. What is a lot of things that we don't know? We don't know who Miami Heat are going to look to sign, right? You know that they got rid of Gabe Vincent. They got rid of Max Strus. Oh, and by the way, they did something pretty smart that I absolutely have to nod to. They picked up Thomas Bryant, who was a free agent that I said I wouldn't mind if the Bulls picked up. The Miami Heat picked him up. And I also been saying, on previous episodes, the Miami Heat were a center away from being legitimate contenders. And now they got a center named Thomas Bryant. Oh, and by the way, they also re-signed, or they picked up Josh Richardson, who they drafted like 6 years ago. and they let him go, and now they brought him back. So they got help from the wing position because he's listed as a shooting guard, but he also stands 6'7", 212 pounds. I mean, he's a small forward in a shooting guard body. That's just he's a shooting guard in a small forward's body. So he's primarily everything that you would want in today's NBA. The way it's almost a positionless sport. You gotta be able to shoot three. You gotta be able to play defense, and then that's pretty much it. Like if you can run up and down the court and not get tired, you got a shot at making the NBA, and that's the truth. Not saying that these players are talentless. I'm not trying to say that the NBA is going soft. It's definitely going soft. But I'm definitely not saying that these guys can't play. I'm just saying that they almost all play the same exact way, which is why you see repeated champions, repeated championship contentions. Golden State are always going to be feared. You know, Milwaukee Bucks are going to be supposedly feared, and it's just because of the players that they have, the players that they keep. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, for Golden State, and then you look at Milwaukee Bucks, who actually kept Chris Middleton, Giannis Antetokounmpo. They picked up. I know the Bucks picked. Oh yeah, Malik Beasley. I just talked about. So those guys, it's the reason why they're feared. And they picked up Robin Lopez. I'm telling you, they're going to be a team to be reckoned with. New York Knicks as well, going to be a team to be reckoned with. Um, Other big questions like what's going on. Oh, you know who else is brand spanking new? The Washington Wizards, who I think are actually going to be pretty good. They might bump themselves into playoff contentions. They got Jordan Poole now. They landscaped it. Their face of their franchise is Kyle Kuzma, well deserved. They picked up a center from Phoenix Suns. Like I said, Phoenix Suns practically unloaded. They practically broke apart because of the whole KD thing. I told you that's what he does. He goes to landscapes, or he goes to franchises and bitches about the players on those teams until the organization gets rid of those players. So that's why the Phoenix Sun players, they've lost like 5 or 6 guys. So they're going to be making a lot of moves. They're going to be picking up players. They've already been picking up players, and I'm pretty sure they look to the idea of probably playing some of their draft picks as well. Not that they're looking to rebuild, but they're going to look to change the shape of their organization. KD is going to be everything to them, and then Devin Booker's going to be number two, which is crazy because Devin Booker's been their guy for what 5 years now, and now all of a sudden their guy's going to be KD, and then Bradley Beal, and then Devin Booker. So I mean, I think that they got a very serious situation going on. I don't think. I mean, I'm not going to say that they're going to be trash. I'm going to say this. Sometimes it looks great on paper and it just doesn't work out. For instance, look at how great that the excuse me, I had to catch my breath for a second. But how great the Timberwolves looked on paper last year with Cat and Robert and D'Angelo, and it bowled up to them almost not even making playoffs. They had to get rid of D'Angelo. It just some stuff just looks so great. You can build up a game inside your mind, but the game's played on the court, not in your head. And that's what the NBA is going through. The NBA is going through what is the ideal team? What's a team supposed to even look like? What are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to have? What do we need? And so when you're questioning all these things, generally that means you probably have a problem. That's why I'm so glad that the Bulls aren't really making a lot of changes. Yeah, we got a couple of new faces, and we're letting go of several players to gain a few faces. But to only bring in a couple of people is actually detrimental to our health. That means that we're staying the same of who we are. Like I said, we kept Vooch, we kept Kobe. Obviously, DeMar's not going nowhere. Zach's not going nowhere for a very, very, very long time. Um, I'd like to say that Patrick Williams is going to get re-signed next year. I'd like to say that Patrick Williams is definitely looking forward to being our power forward for many years to come. He's going to be our new franchise face to go along with Zach LaVine. And then after Zach gets old and he gets down the road, hopefully Patrick is still there. Probably Kobe is probably still going to be there. So I'm still talking about the Bulls instead of talking about the entire NBA landscape. I'll tell you one more team before we wrap it up. One more team that's really starting to make some noise and make a lot of sense is the LA Lakers. Like I said, they picked up Gabe Vincent. I really like that. They picked up Torian Prince from the Minnesota Timberwolves, who we were just talking about, who is actually a very, very solid forward. He could play the 3 or the 4 in today's modern day game. He can shoot the 3 ball pretty well. He plays defense like a beast. Probably everything that Jared Vanderbilt is, but just a little bit better. So that anything that means that Torian Prince is probably going to start, and Vanderbilt's going to eat some wood. And that's going to be the interesting thing about Austin Reeves. So they re-signed Austin Reeves, 4-year, $54 million, well deserved. Like I said, he's like that of today's players. He's like Steve Nash, uh, very rare gem talent in the NBA. So I don't know if he's going to start next year or if Gabe Vincent's going to start. But I'll tell you this: Gabe Vincent's so talented. They have created a problem on accident. Only thing that suffice is you give the job to Austin because he's already been there, and then you let Gabe Vincent be the sixth man. That's the only way to suffice that problem. And then it might not even be a problem. Gabe might be like, hell yeah, I'll come off the bench and play with LeBron. Are you fucking kidding me? Who doesn't want to play with LeBron? Everybody wants to play with LeBron. That's why Gabe Vincent is going to be happy. No matter the job they give him, he'll be happy. That being said, Lakers looking good. The Knicks are looking good. The Bucks are looking smart. Um, Houston's looking stupid. Chicago's looking okay. I want a big name. I don't think getting Torrey Craig and getting Devin Carter or Javon Carter, sorry about that, changes us from where we were last year. On paper, it says that it does. On paper, it says we got better at the 3 ball. We got better defensively. But all in all, here's the thing: we didn't get nobody that's going to stop Alex from playing power forward. So again, we still need a power forward. I don't know which free agency's not over yet. Chicago still got 20, 30 million. You know, we got a chance to get a couple more guys. Um, Now that being said, I don't know who else is out there because Dwight Powell, he signed 2-year, 8 million to stay in Dallas. Let's talk about Dallas for a second. By the way, they re-signed Kyrie Irving to 134 million for 3 years. Don't think that's going to work out. They re-signed a very great power forward, Dwight Powell, who will probably end up playing center for them more than power forward. But he's a power forward that can play center. He does both. It's what they call a stretch 4 and a stretch 5. He's that kind of guy. Um, to 8 million, that's really dog cheap. So I don't know what the thought process was there, unless they promised him big money in the long run, which could possibly happen. I would have, offered him the Torrey Craig deal. I would have offered him a $54 million contract to come play 4 years for me. I would have combined Javon Carter and Torrey Craig's money and Kobe White's money. Actually, I would have done a lot. 8 million to me, the fact that he said yes drives me insane because that's a great talent going for cheap. And the reason why it drives me insane, I should be all for that, right? As a matter of fact, I should say that all players should be like Dwight Powell. But the thing is, if he signs these little bitty contracts, you know, that just means that he's going to be worth more money in the long run going down the hill. So, like for instance, a guy like Patrick Williams, if he does the same things, like, oh yeah, you know what, I'll sign a 1-year deal for 8 mil. That means that becomes his minimum for the next year, which means if we wanted to sign him to a 4-year deal max, or a 5-year max, it would cost us roughly 80 to 100 million, all because he took that little short-term deal. And that's how the way the contracts work in the NFL, in the NBA, in baseball, in hockey. They're all the same. And whatever you sign for in short term eventually becomes your bare minimum of what you'll sign for coming up into the future. So it's a smart, brilliant move by him. But again, like I said, I can't believe that he didn't. I don't know why he didn't go for the long money now. He should have got a $60 million deal, and he didn't do that. So that's on him. Um, and that being said, there's not really. Oh yeah, you know who else went to the Phoenix Sun? Even though I keep on like bouncing back and forth, and I'm sorry if I'm confusing you guys, but Wannabe, Yuto, uh, Watanabe, whatever his name is, the Japanese boy, 7'2". So the Phoenix Suns got 2 guys that are over 7 foot tall or 7 foot and above in KD, and now in Wanabana, Watanabe. I want to say that's his name, Watanabe. I don't know. I'm gonna say that it's Watanabe. And then I'm trying to think of. Well, let's talk about before we wrap this up. I'm gonna try to give you 3 or 4 guys signed really major big deals. Desmond Bain signed 5 year, 208 million, maybe 200, over 200 million to stay in Memphis. Good job by Desmond Bain, definitely worth it. Another guy got a 5 year deal. I already told you that Kyle Kuzma got a 5 year deal to be a franchise of Washington Wizards. Good job by him. Um, there was something I read, and now I'm going blank. Who else got those 5 year deals? There's several of them. There's like 3 or 4 contracts over 200,000, 200 million. I mean, sorry. Um, Desmond Bain being one of the 200 million. Um, I'm going mind blank here. The 130 million by Fred VanVleet. I felt like that was a pretty big contract for 3 years. 154 for 3 years for Kyrie. I felt like that was a pretty big contract. Um, and now that I wanted to inform you guys of these $200 million contracts, I'm going blank outside of Desmond Bain, and that's driving me insane because I know that there's several of them out there got signed, got done deals. A lot of people become franchise players this off season. Like 5 guys become franchise players, and I'm going name blank. So I guess I have to do my homework, and I'll have to continue this rampage of the NBA off season free agency signings as they occur and as they go down. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get off here and enjoy the rest of my night because it's getting late. So if you enjoyed the show, always feel free to like and subscribe to the channel. And if you're feeling awful generous, always feel free to cash at me or Daniel Coughlin, #Coughlin Pride. Have a nice night.